Hello, and welcome to my third edition of my podcast here. I'm here today with a good friend, Brian Daly. How are you, Brian?
Good, man. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I'm honored.
Yeah, man, this is going to be fun. I'm intrigued by what you do. We've gotten a chance to know each other a little bit over the last, I'd say, 6 months, and I'm very impressed with what you're doing in the community and your story, and the companies you run. You got a lot of balls in the air, which is impressive. Can you do me a favor? Just give me a little overview or background on yourself and kind of just a little bit of an overview of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So, I do have a lot of balls in the air, but I've got really good people. And so
that's important.
They keep the balls in the air.
Absolutely.
So, we run a flipping iBuying company.
Okay.
And through that process of growing that business, we also started a construction company. So the flipping company, is called the San Diego Home Buyer. Pretty spot on with that name.
Yeah.
And then
the
construction company is Alchemy Renovations.
Okay.
And so
it's creative.
Those are, right now, those are our two biggest endeavors that we're currently working on. But we also are in the process of getting going with a real estate sales company called We Revive. And that company is the main value proposition for that company is that we can help sellers, because this is what we've done. I've done, me and my team have done over 2,000 of these flips in Southern California.
Unbelievable. 2,000 flips.
Yeah. So, the main proposition of We Revive is that we can really help sellers maximize the return on their investment when they sell their own properties.
Sure.
So we're just getting that started. We have a buyer's team and a seller's team that we're building out. We're working through our marketing message. So that's a real big endeavor for us. I also am publisher and writer of Real Report, which it's a newsletter that we put out every week that talks about the ups and downs on a weekly basis of what's happening in the San Diego real estate market, and then laying on top of that, what's happening in the macro economic picture, and how is that affecting us here locally, and how will that affect us here locally. I started that mainly because I really needed it for my own company, because I have a lot
study
of
the data, study what's going on.
We have a lot of market risk in buying and flipping properties. So the mainstream news media sucks at reporting on real estate. So I just felt like I kept trying to find someone out there that I could listen to and give me the answers that I needed, and I couldn't find it. So I just started doing it myself.
It's impressive. Yeah. How long does that take? I mean, you're studying the data and then you're putting that together every week and then publishing an email distribution.
Yeah. The process of doing it now, I've got it down a lot shorter than it used to take.
Sure.
It used to take a good 10, 15 hours a week, but now I know my sources.
Sure. Pull from different data places.
And so, I probably got it down to about 5 hours a week.
Okay.
But, that's combination of doing my own market research and then compiling it. The hardest part is, okay, how do you take all this data and then compile it into something that actually makes sense? And that process of taking all this data and compiling it into something that makes sense in writing simply,
so
someone
else
can understand
the layperson.
That is what's most valuable for me to run the company, because if I didn't take all that data and boil it down into a simple couple sentences, then I wouldn't understand it well enough to make decisions off of it. So that's actually been, beside all the benefit of just being able to help other people understand what's happening in the market. The process of doing that has been the most helpful for me in running companies.
That's awesome. It's huge that you have that. It's a great way to look at the information and make sure that, as you're moving forward and acquiring properties and renovating them and flipping them, you're not going to get stuck, right? Because you don't want to, go down the rabbit hole of buying some real estate and then realizing, I missed it by that mark or whatever. So that's spot on that you're doing that. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's take a minute and go kind of backwards a little bit in time. I mean, you have an amazing story, flip 2,000 properties, go back to the early days when you're kind of getting started with that and getting, started with the flipping and whatnot. That was about 10, 12, 14 years ago.
Yeah. So, quick run of it is 2005 is when I got into real estate. Okay. And then, everybody knows what happened in 2007, 2008. Yeah. I transitioned into the REO industry where, we would manage foreclosure properties for the banks. And that in and of itself was the biggest, I think, most impactful experience as it relates to real estate and me understanding real estate, because in that role, I oversaw the sale of 1,500 properties within a 2-year period across multiple states.
Wow.
So the transactional experience that I was able to get there, and also being a part of a larger company, just helped me realize, okay, this is how you can do real estate at scale. Sure. But so I did that from 2008 till 2010. Okay. And then, in 2011 is when I kind of branched off and was like, I was selling all these properties to all these cash buyers. And I had known since I was 18 years old that I wanted to flip properties. And I was seeing all these properties that we were selling. And I'm like, man, why don't we just go do that? So me and a buddy that worked with me at the time at that company, we started moonlighting, I guess, trying to buy properties for a while until we finally got the rhythm of it. And we actually started buying. At the time we would wholesale. Okay. Because we didn't have money. Right. So for those of you who don't know, wholesaling is when you put a property under contract, you put an earnest money deposit down. And then when you have the property locked up under contract, you find a buyer that actually that has the money and can perform on that contract. And then you sell it for a fee. Sure. And so that's how a lot of it's a good way to start in investing. It's hard, but it's a good way to start in investing. Yeah. Well,
there's risk there, but it's calculated, right? Back to, studying the math, buying it and then not really closing on it, right? You're just selling the paper when you're doing the wholesale. So that's awesome. Okay.
So that's how I started. And then, in 2011, I went full time with my partner followed me 6 months later. And we, from 2011 to 2016, we grew that company. 5 years, we had a very large, successful residential division where we were flipping properties. We also, in the process of doing that, started a construction company that did we started a syndication company that has syndicated apartment buildings.
Okay.
And then through that process, we also started, our construction company. We diverted to focus on renovating apartment buildings here in San Diego or in Southern California. We did some up in LA and Orange County as well. Yeah.
Done it all.
Yeah. Well, again, the team did it. Yeah. We provided the platform. Sure. and
vision.
It was an amazing experience. I fell in love. I'd always loved real estate, but in that 5-year period, I fell in love with growing companies. Like that is my new passion. Like I love real estate, but more than that, I love growing companies, teams, brands. People. Yeah.
You're very talented at it, clearly.
Hopefully I'm learning.
Well, we're all learning every day. We learn something for sure. So let's talk about flipping for a minute, because, it's a very interesting topic. I mean, for people that are, maybe going to do it on their own, what are some of your, trials and tribulations or tips and tricks of things that you've learned in, 2000 flips? You certainly have mastered the skill of identifying properties and flipping them. What are some of the key things that you could share on what's important when you're looking to flip a property, if you're, like, say, an individual investor?
Okay. So it's going to be pretty cliche, right?
It's okay.
But I mean, it's a cliche for a reason. You make your money when you buy. Mm-hmm. And you can buy and make money in any market. It's just, you make money when you buy. So you gotta know the formula, and it's all it is. It's a math problem. Right. It's like, okay, so you can sell it for X amount. Okay. How much money do you want to make? How much is it going to cost for you to fix it up in order to get it to that value?
To that price. Yeah.
And then how much financing costs, holding costs and whatnot are you going to have? And okay, so that's what you can pay. And now it's we have this complicated spreadsheet
you punch all the numbers into.
But yeah, it doesn't need to be super complicated, but the thing that you got to figure out in the space of the flipping world is the first thing you need to know is how to buy right. If you can figure out how to buy right, everything else will figure it out. Like if you can figure out how to buy right, you'll be able to find somebody with money that will pay you a fee, and then you can wholesale it. And then
So in the appreciating market that we've been in for the last 2 years where prices are just going through the roof, when you say buy right, I mean, I think I understand what you're talking about here, but can you elaborate on what that means by buy right? As prices are going up, it's almost like you're having to overpay, right? You were to get a property when you're competing against other investors. Now the market's starting to shift a little bit, but explain what you mean by buy right.
Well,
And maybe a strategy behind that.
Well, man, there's
tough question.
There's a million different ways to buy a property right, to how to find them and all that. It would take an hour to go through even one of them, but you know, when the market was appreciating, you know, a lot of people got in the habit of factoring in future appreciation into what they were willing to pay. And there was a time there when we did it as well, but it was very calculated. And honestly, for anybody that's looking to get into flipping, I don't recommend that at all. I mean, you got to look at, like right now, we're factoring in a lot of depreciation, being very, very conservative because the market is a little wobbly.
Sure.
But yeah, what I mean by buying right is, I mean, listen, I use an analogy when I'm trying to explain this to some of my team members. You got a cup, right? And when you buy a property, how well you analyze that property is basically, and what you buy it at, you end up buying a cup that can only hold so much water.
Sure.
Right. And so ultimately you want to buy as big of a cup as you can. And if you screw that up and you might not even know that you screwed up, but if you screw it up and you buy the cup too small, right, then you have no room for error, or you can even,
I got you.
If you make an analysis or underwriting problem or mistake, you can buy a cup that can't fill any water, right? So you got to understand.
And that by filling it, you're talking about rehab costs, construction, carrying costs, all that. You're going to keep filling it up with that.
So like the cup will only hold so much water. So when you buy it, you will only be able to make so much profit.
Okay.
Right. So when you buy and close on a property, you have a ceiling of how much money you're going to make. You don't actually know what that is, but the better you buy it, the bigger, the more water that can hold. Now, after you buy it, you do all the operational things like fix it up and market it to sell, which the better you do those things, the more money or the more water that cup will continue to hold.
Sure.
Along the way, you're going to spill water out. That just happens.
Well, when you're not tight with your construction timelines and your overruns or your change orders,
contractors, screw you on a job and leave, or you get
carrying costs go long.
And you get pot for permits. All of these things will take the water level down, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Those things do matter, but ultimately what matters most is how big that cup is, because that will allow you to spill a lot of water without getting paid. A lot of people in our industry right now, specifically because the market took an unexpected and fast turn, right? Yep. So a lot of these people are, us included, we have some properties that we didn't buy as well as we should have or could have. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in a lot of pain because they didn't have enough margin for error and margin for market risk. And the worst thing that you can do when you're in the industry or in this business of flipping a property is, and it's very possible to do it, is you buy a property, you fix it up, and you actually lose money. All the work you put into it, everything you did, and you lose money. And that's a reality that, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. I mean, for the last 5 years, a lot of people haven't had to really worry about, because the appreciating market
has been the safety net, made sure that there was always profit on the back end.
Exactly. And people were making money that they had no idea, and they never felt the pain of the mistakes they were making, because they still made money. But now, again, when the water goes out, right, you can see who was wearing shorts and who wasn't. Well, that's kind of what's happening. And that's why they say this business is risky. It is, because you can lose money, and a lot of other businesses, you might not make money, but you don't lose money.
And now you've got multiple arms. You got your construction company that you're leveraging that piece, so you've got multiple revenue streams, I imagine, because you're paying your construction guys to do all the work. So hopefully you're earning money there as well as on the flipping. So you've got multiple ways that you're able to kind of hedge on a property. Is that correct? Like, is that for your business model or no?
Well, no, I mean, it doesn't fully hedge, but it does make, I feel like, our business safer, because again, like what happened recently, the market shifted. We had always been building this construction company to be able to go out and handle client jobs. And I've always told our teams, like, listen, this is what we do. We better do it damn well. Mm-hmm. And that way, if we need to, like, the reason I brought construction in-house is because man, residential construction is hard, and working with contractors is hard. And I know that if I control that process, that I control the team that does it, that we could do it better than almost everybody.
It gets a bad rap, construction in general. Just I mean, I'll hire guys and they'll come and they don't even show up sometimes. It's like just brutal.
Yeah, it's terrible. So it makes our business structure more safer, but as it relates to like how I mean, if we don't make money on a property, our construction company doesn't make money on the property.
Got it. Okay, fair.
But again, that model doesn't work for everybody, because, personally, I like building teams and companies, but it's not fun always. So, and I don't recommend it for anybody unless they actually love building teams and companies, because, dealing with people problems and company problems. I mean, I have a lot of overhead that, a lot of my investor friends don't have.
Sure.
And I do it because I love it, but it also, sometimes it can keep me up at night, and they can go to bed being like, oh yeah, I mean, we're not going to be able to do any proper projects right now because the market sucks, but I don't have to go, feed 20 people.
Sure. So you got a lot on your plate there. So let's shift gears for a second. So you had an opportunity to work with Darren Hardy, right, for a few years. This is going backwards now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. That's pretty exciting. I mean, he's, amazing guy. I'd love to hear what it was like working with him. Some of the things he learned.
Oh man. So the real quick backstory is the first company, 2011, 2016. In 2016, partnership issues, I won't go into it, but I left that company.
Okay.
It was the best thing that I ever did at that point. I didn't realize how much I needed to leave that company until after I left the company.
Okay.
And through that process, I had a buddy of mine that knows Darren, and Darren was looking for, a COO type person to help him run his team and run his company and grow his impact and his revenue, obviously. Mm-hmm. So that, it wasn't a slam dunk, but it worked out. I ended up, I knew of Darren before I started working with him. I read a couple of his books, and I didn't really have any understanding of what his business is like or what he was like personally until I got into it. But I remember being super nervous, man. We were, we talked on the phone, and I wasn't quite sure how it went, but I was planning on going out to Florida, and that's where he was living at the time. And I was going out for a conference, and I canceled the conference, and I was like, screw it. I'm going to fly out and meet him. He didn't really invite me. I just said, hey, I could be there. I'll be there in a week. Okay. And so we met in person. Cool. And it worked out. So he needed someone, and I was available. And so, we started the working relationship. So
that's awesome.
There's so many things that I have taken away from Darren. I thought I knew what I was doing with business, and the whole success thing before I got there. And then I realized, man, I barely scratched the surface. I was quickly humbled, in realizing, like, yeah, okay, we were successful, but how, and a lot of it was on purpose, but it was also kind of by accident and luck. And then I started realizing what it was like to really intentionally grow a company, grow a brand, grow a culture, and how much work it was, but how if you did put in the work, how crazy successful and impactful it could be. Yeah. And so, some big takeaways, Darren, again, I didn't realize what value Darren was offering until I got in there, because, he was still figuring out his marketing machine. Mm-hmm. He's got a program called Insane Productivity that it it was, for me, it was probably the thing I needed the most at that time. I was a super driven, ambitious person, but I didn't have a lot of the structure around me personally for my own like personal management systems to do that in a way where I could be driven and be ambitious and be successful while also not being so frenetic and so anxious about it. And this insane productivity system is all about, how you can structure your own personal life to be more focused and impactful in what you're doing. And that, the first 90 days, 180 days, I mean, I dove into that program because you kind of have to,
Sure.
I thought I was like really efficient and what's the word? I thought I was really efficient with my time and being able to produce results in a short amount of time. And then I started working there, and dude, his whole team operates at a whole nother level, and they don't even understand how fast it is because they've been there for so long.
Right.
You go, entering into that environment, like you have to figure it out quick. Otherwise they'll leave you in the dust. And he is not ashamed by saying it. Like his whole motto when he brings someone in, it's 90 days, push up or push out.
Okay. I like that.
And so if you can't get up to speed with that team and the culture and the way things are done there within 90 days, then it is going to be so unbelievably uncomfortable that you are not going to survive.
Yeah. You're almost going to want out.
And it is an exhausting experience. I mean, to go in and, work at that pace, but that's what he does, man. He is a machine, and he's not ashamed of it. And he is who he is on stage. Like that is
him.
That is who he is. I cannot express enough how much I was transformed by that experience. And I would not be the business person I am today without it. It's hard to explain all of the value that I was able to get through that. But one of the biggest things that I can say is, as it relates to like successful companies and successful people, before I joined up with Darren and really got a taste of all of it, I kind of had this understanding that it was like, it's kind of by accident. Like a lot of these people fell in, they worked hard and they hustled. And then because of that, they got a lot of luck and they fell into their success.
Sure.
What I found after, and it's been proven to me time and time again since, is that isn't the case. Darren is an incredibly intentional human being. Everything he does is strategic, intentional, for a result. And just knowing that has caused me to be so much more intentional about the things that I do and how I do them in life and in business. And, it's not just about hustle, but it's about intentional hustle. And then
being very strategic with your time and what you're doing. And
the decisions you make, what you say yes to, what you say no to, and how you go about doing those things. Like,
sure,
what to put intense effort into and what not to put intense
prioritize them all.
It's a whole mindset that it's really hard to explain, but that's the biggest takeaway I got is like, man, these successful people in life are super intentional about their life. They don't really leave anything to chance. They're not going to just follow the wave of average. They're going to be very, very intentional about every decision they make.
I think you're also talking about how, and it might've come from him, how investing in real estate at a very young age and really gets the wheel turned into, build your machine, your real estate portfolio. Was that a lesson that he taught you, or is that something you picked up along the way?
Well, I've known it for a while, but the context is that I just like literally 4 days ago, I just had a walking meeting with him. And it was cool to be able to catch up. And in that, I asked him about his real estate experience, because when he was 20 years old, he was in real estate and he was a hustler and he was a grinder and he was a prospecting machine. He came in at 20 and in like a month, he had more listings than everybody else in the office combined. I mean, the guy was just, he said it, he was a machine. He was a prospecting machine. He would constantly be signing new listing agreements. Now, and he did that for 3 years. He ended up taking the majority of listings in 2 markets up in Northern California at 20, against people that have been in the industry for 10, 15 years.
Unbelievable.
And he did it at a time that was, the market was contracting. It was a tough time, but he just hustled his way into crushing it.
Wow.
And, but he only lasted 3 years, and he said he hated it. he did it because there's a lot of backstory of why he did it and how he did it, but I won't get into that. But he said he hated the grind. He hated the real estate business because the way he structured his business. He just was a prospecting machine, and then he did not focus on referral business. And then he did not focus on buying his own real estate. He said the two things that he would, if he was going to start all over in real estate, the two things he would do different is he would focus on building a referral-based business, and he would focus on buying assets, buying real estate assets. He likened it to insider trading. Like, you have your nose to the ground, you know your market, you know the trends in the market, you know market fundamentals, you know neighborhoods.
Sure.
And you have, being in real estate, you come across opportunities where some people just they need to sell, and they're willing to take a discount. And he just said, man, if I was gonna do it all over again, I would have started buying, taking the money I was making with my commissions and building a portfolio.
What's popular today? ADUs. That's like a big thing, a big buzzword. Everyone's loving the ADUs. They're popping up all over. We're financing a ton of them. That's become very commonplace for us. And there's ADU grants out there that we're starting to capitalize on and use financing to help people do that. What are you seeing? Are you guys playing in that space pretty heavily?
Yeah, a lot more now. The whole ADU legislation that California is working or has put into place for the last couple of years. I mean, it's their answer to the housing crisis, right? This is how they're trying to get affordable housing out into the community, and they are making it a lot easier every time they come up with a new bill. They're just trying to make it easier and easier for people to build these ADUs on their properties. ADUs, accessory dwelling unit. What's really cool about the ADU structure is you can build if you're willing to go through the pain, because it's not easy. I mean, you're building, right? You got to go through the pain of permits, and you got to get financing, and it takes 6 to 9 to 12 months depending upon what jurisdiction you're in and all of it. But it can be painful.
Yep.
But if you're willing to go through that, you can build, let's just say a 1,000 square foot ADU on your property that can, you can build up to 1,200 square feet. So, and that varies by jurisdiction, but from the blanket rule is like 1,200 square feet, 3-4 bedroom ADU. So let's just say it costs $1,000 or $300 a foot to build, which is roughly retail right now to build a brand new structure. So $300,000 gets you let's add $50,000 for fees and permits. So $350,000 gets you a 1,000 square foot, potentially 3 bedroom, 2 bath ADU that can rent for $3,500 or more now. And there is nowhere really in the country, minus some, podunk towns that you probably don't want to invest in, will get you that 1% return. Basically the rule is that everybody looks for, right? The golden rule in rental properties is if you can find a rental property that you can buy for $350,000, that you can rent for $3,500 a month, 1% per month. That is a great return. That hasn't existed in California for decades, right? That just doesn't exist. If you find it, it's a golden egg, right?
It's a unicorn.
Yeah, unicorn, better way for it. So anyway, right now you can build by spending $350,000, and you can finance part of it, which is amazing. Still at these low, 5% rates are incredibly low. You can finance part of it, and so you could take $350,000 and you basically get a $3,500 a month cash flow out of it, and you're not going to be. Your property taxes aren't going to go up that much. They are going to go up, but they're not going to go that much. And so you're going to get this cash flow for what you cannot find in out of state markets. It's an incredible opportunity for people to plan, build wealth, plan for their future retirement. Because I mean, $3,500 a month, you're paying down principal. And what's crazy in California is, unlike other markets, is it's a very much appreciating market.
Oh, for sure.
And it has a lot of ups and downs, granted, but it's an appreciated market where a lot of these places where you can get cash flow, you don't have very much appreciation, and you have a lot of natural hazards that force you to spend a lot of maintenance money. Like you got to replace the roof all the time. You got to, you know, it's like, it's a lot harsher on
climates versus here. It's, maintenance costs are going to be minimal.
Very, very low comparatively.
Sure.
So your cash flow, you know, over time is actually pretty good. Anyway, we're playing in the ADUs. Our construction company is very much focused on being the builder of ADUs. We don't do the planning part, but we have perfected on how to build. You know, we were doing 40, 50 renovations at a time. We have a machine that is really, really good at construction. And so what we found in this ADU space is there's a lot of people that will help you plan on how to build an ADU, but the construction part is a giant pain in the ass. And so our goal is to be the solution to that pain. And so we have a pipeline right now of about 15 projects that are in the beginning stages of being built. I'm looking all the time for properties that we can buy ADUs on and then hold them and rent them out, because
buy them and build the ADU because you get the space to put the ADU on the property.
Yeah. So there's one property today that we're working on. We got this cool seller financing structure. It's got a 12,000 square foot lot, probably fit at least 2 ADUs on there.
Oh, wow.
And it's currently rented out. And so we can break even cash flow while we're figuring out how to build the ADUs. And, it's a no brainer. I mean, by the time we're done with it, it's going to be worth a lot more than we spend on building the ADUs.
Sure.
And then it'll cash flow.
That's awesome. Are the ADUs that you're building, are they prefab plans? Are they custom? Like where are you getting the design for?
Well, for the ones that we're building as a construction company, those are all, they're all stick built, custom, but they tend to follow the same plan.
Okay.
And then everybody's lot's a little different. Everybody's existing house a little bit different. Setbacks are a little different. So they do get customized for those, for the locations they're being put in. We are not doing the prefab, you know, as for properties that, I mean, I'm looking for opportunities to put on prefab, but for our construction company, that's just not our expertise. We're stick built. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Let's go back to the real report that you created. And the numbers. Let's talk a little bit about like the market and the shift that we're seeing right now. From your perspective, what's your kind of crystal ball of real estate, locally? Because I think people are always asking, I'm getting that question all the time, what does the next 6-12 months look like in the housing market? Prices, is there a bubble? Is it going to go down? With all the data you study on a weekly basis, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So the crystal ball.
The crystal ball's fun. Right?
I know.
Don't you love that question?
And me writing this newsletter has put me in the situation where I'm asked to provide my crystal ball answer all the time.
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah. So, I'll just say it's really fluid. So what we have right now is a math problem. The home values that we have, or at least at the start of the year, they were based on a market that had 3% interest rates for many years in a row. And so those values are based on the interest rates of being 3%, and the
mortgage are borrowing against, the payments low,
affordability that people can afford.
They can afford this big house with a small payment.
And so what we have, what happened this year is the interest rates went from 3, and over, in part of June, they hit 6, right?
It's like doubled.
And on top of that, over the 2 to 3 year period where interest rates were so low, you had property values rise 20 to 25% a year. So you're looking at, I mean, it's just a math problem. And I see a lot of these, I see a lot of real estate people like with their head in the sand, not understanding, like they think that real estate values will always go up. It's the same equation that people were talking about or the same freaking story that people were telling when it was 2006, 2007, before the crash, right?
It's going to go up forever.
They will not go up forever. There are things that can stop values from going up, and there's things that will cause values to go down. And one of them, we've never had a situation like 3% interest rates for as long as they were. And then all of a sudden interest rates go up 3%. or 3%, double. It never happened before. So you can't use historical data and tell me that prices will not go down. They are going down, and they have been going down for a couple of months now. So as it relates to values today, in June, we saw the median price drop 2%. In May, we saw median price drop 1%. The problem with that data, it's true, right? In June, the actual data shows that the combined value of median price went down 2% month over month. The problem with that data, which I see a lot of people in real estate missing, is that the properties that make up the June sale data were actually put on a contract in May or late April. And the market started to slow down in May and late April because interest rates shot up in March. Yep. They went up from 3 to 5 in March. Yep. Well, what really is going on right now in the real estate market, it can be kind of summed up by the June 10th CPI data that came out that kind of rocked both the stock and bond market. And at that time, interest rates, buyers were already like feeling the pain, right? But the market's been so tough for buyers that there were a lot of buyers that are still like sucking it up and going out there.
They're still slugging it out,
right? Yep. And then you had that June 10th data come out, and interest rates shot up another 1% in 3 days. It was bonkers. And that just absolutely changed the landscape of real estate. It changed the euphoria is gone. Right. We had euphoria for the last 2 years, and that helps drive massive price growth. That's gone. That's out the door. And that's not going to come back. The only thing that might bring it back is interest rates plummet back down to 3%. Yep. But there's nothing in the next 6 to 12 months that I think would bring that about.
I agree with you on that.
So really what I see happening now is values have corrected very, very fast. Like after June 10th, everything that's been going on in a contract has been, it's been lower. We're seeing
pricings are starting to come in under list. The offers are accepting. They're not going
well under list. I mean, what we're seeing right now, the data will show in July that we month over month decline of another 5%. Now put that in perspective. Right. That's a month of decline in median price of 5%. If you annualize that, that's a 60% loss in value. Now that has to be 5% per month for 12 months, which will not happen.
No,
but the rate of the change, people just haven't wrapped their head around yet.
Yeah, it's 3 months down the road that people look back and go, "Oh my gosh, it went down, down, down."
Yeah,
you got a trend.
And so July data is going to show a big decrease in values, and that's still people put the properties that closed in July. Some of those were put in a contract in May and then June, and a lot of them before June 10th. And so what we're going to see in August is even worse. So people haven't figured it out yet it's already too late. Values have already gone down. Like I've been planning on values to decrease in our business model for a while, but unfortunately, and I was well conservative. I was well ahead of the market when I started factoring in depreciation into our buying formula, but I was not factoring in happening as quick as it happened. So we have some pain to pay. We already are seeing, we were making on average $100,000 plus per property. And now we're making on average like 10, 15, that's a big difference. It's a big difference, man. Yeah. And it's temporary, it's the game we play, I'm comfortable with it, but there's a lot of people that are just now got into flipping. And unfortunately they just got the timing all wrong, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. But as far as like over the next 3 months, I'm already confident I'll write my name to it. I know that we're going to see values off the peak, right? The peak was in March and April. I know we're going to see values 10 to 15% lower by the end of August or September.
Okay.
So I think the median price at that point was 875.
Okay.
So whatever that 10 to 15% number ends up looking like, our median price is going to dip below 800,000.
Interesting.
Whether or not that continues to go down, I think we're going to find a bottom here sooner because it's happening so fast.
Sure.
And buyers are now starting. Luckily, since June 10th, the mortgage rates have actually improved.
Yeah, they've gotten down a little bit.
Yeah, they've improved by at least a half a point. And the thing that most important is that they're staying relatively steady now, and buyers are starting to realize, like, okay, I'm set. The dust is settling.
Right.
Stabilizing. They can go re-qualify, which I'm sure you're dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
And they got to wrap their head around the new rate and the new type of house they can buy. But over the next 3 months, they're going to see a lot of good deals because inventory is going up. And so I think we'll start to see a bottom of this like rapid decline. I don't think it's a crash yet. Right. The only thing that I think will really cause a persistent crash is massive layoffs. And right now, I don't, the market's starting to show some resilience as it relates to, some of the stock market's starting to bounce back up and people are starting to realize, like, yeah, we're going to get in a recession, but we might actually have that soft landing that the Fed has been hoping for. Right. And they're going to have to stimulate the economy a little bit next year, which is normal. They're going to go a little too far with their Fed, fund rate decreases, which they need to do. They need to throw cold water on the market. And then next year, I think bonds are already factoring in the fact that the Fed is probably going to end up lowering rates again next year.
They will.
So if all of this happens, I think we will find a bottom. I think it's going to be a very boring market. I think sales volume, I think transaction volume in general is going to go down a lot, and stay that way for a while. It's just going to be less volume. Until
less players in the game too.
Less buyers, less sellers. Yeah. There's so many people right now that have 3% mortgages. Why would they sell?
Right.
A 3% mortgage right now is an asset.
Totally.
You got to hold on to that thing and you're making money.
Absolutely.
Just through the inflation and tax write-offs. And oh man, it's going to be an interesting couple of years in real estate because there's a lot of people that shouldn't sell. Mm-hmm. And then where is the new inventory going to come from?
Yes, it's not there.
I know. And then, so the answer to the problem I don't have, but I do think right now that we are going to see continued price declines for the next few months. And I think we could see a nice little bounce back in buyer activity next year. But where price lands, at this point, I'm factoring in just to be safe, like, cause I got to buy, like when you're buying real estate, doing what we do,
you got to keep your machine moving.
No, shoot, I'm not going to push.
You're going to pump the brakes.
I already pumped the brakes. We haven't been putting offers out very much. And we haven't really, we're buying one today, but we got a big reduction and we've been under contract on that for a while.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But but when we do buy, I have to look at what's the worst case scenario. Right. And there still is a worst case scenario of interest rates going back up or layoffs happening. And then we have a kind of a flood of distressed properties. There is a group of people that have bought in the last 12 months that because of this correction in values that they're going to be underwater.
Tough spot.
And if they're underwater and they lose their job, you have what I've been telling people for a while is I don't think it's going to happen yet, but it's a possibility right now. Mm-hmm. And it has not been a possibility for years where we could actually have a full-blown crash. Like it is a card on the table. And if the chips fall in the wrong direction, I guess that card's going to be played, if people lose jobs and their homes underwater, and then you have kind of an influx of short selling or
short sales coming back.
But the other, this is why it's so hard to have a crystal ball right now, because what happened in COVID, all these lenders realized that this forbearance program actually worked. Yeah. Like And they're just going to do it. They're just going to do it again. And they don't want to foreclose. They don't want to foreclose. They don't want a short sale. They would rather the people stay in the house. And if that means pushing out payments, it worked in the forbearance plan. If they can just get through the time when these people don't have income and can't afford to pay it, but you forbearance for 12 months and it allows the recession to work its course and allows the people to get jobs again.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even have a situation where it should be a crash, but because of these creative strings that people are willing to pull now, that they avoid it. So
slide through.
Anyway, that was a long-winded answer.
No, it's good stuff though, man. This is cool getting inside your head a little bit on this stuff. It's been fun. I think that's pretty much all we wanted to cover today, man. I've enjoyed chatting with you and I appreciate you coming to hang with me for 30, 45 minutes. It's been cool, brother. Fun. Yeah, man. All right, man. Have an awesome day. Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
All right, brother. See you.
See you.